Well, welcome everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Sue Katz from American Consumer Credit Counseling. Is that right, Sue?
Yep.
All right. And Sue has agreed that she is open to questions live as we're going along. So keep that in mind. And other than that, I will ask you while you're just standing by, just to mute yourself in case your phone rings or anything like that, or your dog barks or, stuff like that. Anyways, so welcome, Sue. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. So, just a little bit of housekeeping ahead of time. I do have handouts, financial workbooks, if anybody would like one. I'm going to be emailing them all to Bob after the class. And also you can contact myself directly for them. I've got my contact information in the chat already. And I have my organization's contact information in the chat. I apologize, I got a little bit of a frog. I'm recovering from a little bit of a strain of my vocal cords, but I'm doing much better now. So we'll get through this very well. I have a lot to cover in the next hour because it's a new year. And also we have a new administration. So we do need to adjust our budgets a bit from what we're seeing coming down the pike. And we also have to start planning. And planning for our future or planning for tomorrow are similar ideas. So I want you all to close your eyes for just 1 minute and think about where you want to be 5 to 10 years down the road. It may be retirement. It may be a vacation. You might want to own a house. You might want to increase your degree. All these different types of things. Now, in a journal, or if you have a scratch piece of paper, write that down. That is your long-term goal. Figuring out your long-term goals, we need to figure out the steps that we need to take from here on how to get to those long-term goals. Every year in a journal, I write down what I want to achieve for the year. And I look back on the previous year to see the things that I did do and to see the changes that I made. And then I start working on my budget. And I start looking at the goals that I might have in the short term to help me move myself towards my long-term goal. So we're going to go over a little bit of how I do a budget. We're going to talk a little bit about resources. And some of those resources are in the room. So if there is a specific question I can't answer, guess what? I've got a resource right here that can for certain ones. We'll talk a little bit about the changes in the economy that we're going to see. We're going to talk a little bit about credit. And if you guys have any specific questions along the way, I want you to ask. Because my whole way of life and doing work with other people is about thinking outside the box, how to make things work. Life happens to everybody. Absolutely nobody is immune to life changes. COVID's taught that to some people. Some people like me have restarted their lives 3 or 4 times over. The better I got at budgeting and looking around myself for different ways to do things, the easier those life changes have been. I also, besides having worked for American Consumer Credit Counseling for the past 13 years, and the Financial Resources Liaison for the Guard and Reserve, ISFAC, the financial team that they have. I also work with the VA hospitals and everybody else. So I see different things going on. And for a veteran community person, you have more resources than anybody else. And we're going to start learning about plugging some holes in that budget with those resources to help us obtain our next goal. So, that long-term goal. Does anybody want to share theirs with us? Go ahead, Brenda.
I would like to buy a house.
Okay, so buying a house. We need to figure out what your financial status is right now, right?
Hmm.
Meaning doing a budget.
Hmm.
We need to figure out how much you can afford for that house.
Hmm.
We need to see if your credit is in line
Hmm.
to make that purchase. And then we have to figure out what community we might want to buy in that is affordable to us. As a benefit for a veteran, do you get a reduction in real estate taxes? Other different programs that might be available to you, like the VA home loan, the Mass Welcome Home Loan, or Rural Housing Development Loan, and adding a farm grant to it, because there are veteran farm grants out there. This is what I'm talking about thinking outside the box and looking at the options. So we start in the beginning. What is your budget? What do you have to work with right now to make that goal a possibility? So I usually start people off that I'm working with tracking their expenses. Doing an expense tracker helps you figure out where your money's going. And it also helps you figure out, if your spending is right for you. And you notice how I say you, because none of us have the exact same budget. None of us have the exact same wants and needs. So we have to figure out where our money's going, but the choices that we're making, if they are correct for ourselves. So I am going to pull up a picture, if I can. Bear with me 1 second. All right, I'm trying to get this to maximize again, sorry. I am going to pull up a picture of an expense worksheet. Now, you don't have to be as detailed as this. Just put in where your money's going and how much you spent. So one of the instances I usually use in my classes, because it's very relevant, is Dunkin' Donuts. I used to go to Dunkin' Donuts every morning for a cup of coffee and a bagel on my way to work, until I tracked it and I saw how much I was spending. That was $911 a year at the time. That's when it was $350 a day. All right. So I like my coffee and bagel in the morning. I don't change my lifestyle for anybody. All right. But I will change the way that I bring things in. And this is what I talk about when I say thinking outside the box. So I get my coffee and bagels at Market Basket. I spend a little over $200 a year. That means I have $700 a year that I can put towards something else or save for that rainy day when life happens again. Tracking your money helps you make these choices for yourself. And it also gives us a good idea of what our spending is like in a particular month. All right. Then we want to move it, and I'm going to forward to the next page of the budget workbook, to an actual budget. And like I said, you guys can get a copy of this from myself or from Bob after the class is over. So you can start using a real budget workbook for yourself, or you can convert this to an Excel spreadsheet, or you can use Mint or one of those many other, devices out there to do a budget on. But when I know what my average is for certain pieces of my budget, it makes it easier to plug into the actual budget. So there are three different types of expenses on a budget. There's fixed expenses, variable expenses, and periodic expenses. I do budgeting a little bit differently than most people do it. Comes from being a tax accountant for 32 years. Okay, I cost average everything. So income that's coming in, we want to gather that up. The net income, actual cash in the palm of your hand. And we want to gather it up for the entire year. What did you make last year? During tax season, it's a great time to start doing a budget because you're already gathering your information anyways. Well, if you put it in one big ball and break it flat over 12 months, guess what? Now you know your actuals. Any month that you make more than what you budgeted for, I want you to start sticking in a savings account. And that would be a working savings account attached to your checking account. That way, your money is earning interest while you're waiting to use it. The reason why I do this is there are 52 weeks in a year. So some months there might be 5 weeks. Some months, like February, sometimes there are only 3. This evens off the playing field. Also, when it's sitting in your savings account, it's earning interest and it's staying safe. And it's also keeping me away from temptation too. I know if I have $5 in my pocket, I'll blow it. If it's in the savings account, I think about it before I spend it. Well, we're going to do the same thing with the expense side of the wall. And that way we can make our money start working for us as we go along. So the fixed expenses would be things that do not change, correct? So your rent, mortgage, car loan, personal loans, student loans. They stay the same until they're paid in full or you change them. Those are nice and easy to stick on a budget. Your variable expenses are a little bit tougher. That's your food, your gas, things like that. Okay? But we can get an average of what we spend. This year, I am going to tell you to increase that average by 5% in every category except for gas. I want you to double gas for the moment. Reason being, any excess is going to go in a savings account. With some of the executive orders that have come out, gas prices are due to go up. In fact, we've already seen them go up about 30 cents. Heating oil is going to go up. So we do want to watch our budgets for those increases so we don't get caught short. So like I said, when we figure it out, any excess that we don't spend at the time goes in that savings account for later on when we do see the increases. I do things like this for periodic expenses as well. So I've learned that if you pay your insurance for your car up front, most companies give you a discount. With the exception of USAA, that's the only insurance company I know that if you carry a balance, they don't charge you an extra fee. Most insurance companies charge you an extra $5 a month to make those payment plans. So if I can get myself in a way in my budget that I can pay for it up front, I'm saving myself not only the $45 in those payments, but I'm also getting a discount on the policy as well. Again, I'm making my money work for me. Food, clothes, entertainment, all the things in the variable side of the fence. Well, that's the area where we can find the biggest discounts. Whether you're a couponer, whether you like using Living Social or Groupon, whether you go to the free section of Craigslist or Free Cycle or you go to one of the Facebook free to me sites or the yard sale sites, all those different types of things. We can shop around and go into a brick and mortar store and show them the lowest cost that we found. And most brick and mortar stores will either match that price or give us another discount on top of it. So we can find a lot of savings in that variable area. Also, I'm hoping that all my veterans in the room are using your veteran ID and asking at every register. I don't care if last week they said they didn't, but you're asking for your veterans discount. A lot of times, if they don't have one, they'll give you the AAA or the senior discount because they're too embarrassed that they don't. It's using your resources that you have out there to lower your insurance, lower your telephone bill. Did you know most telephone companies give veteran discounts? You have to ask. They don't know you're a veteran unless you ask them about the discount. Two examples of that is T-Mobile gives you 50% off veterans discount, and Verizon does a 15% discount. Recently, I did hear that AT&T is doing one too. I thought that was something that was old, but I heard that they are doing it again. So even your utilities, you should be asking about veteran discounts. Okay. Once we're done with the basic budget, it's about honing it. It's about watching where our money's going and keeping to the budget. Like I said, any excesses that we are not spending right now, like Christmas, we're putting it into the savings account so that our money is growing for us, earning interest while we're waiting to use it. Okay. And it's there. So we're less reliant on the credit cards. One of the things that I do, I put away about $17, $18 a month into my savings towards clothes. And this is a prime example how even a civilian can save. Okay. I tend to shop at Kohl's, and yes, I use a Kohl's credit card, even though it says 21.99% interest, because I know how much I can spend because I've been saving up for it. I also earned some interest while I was waiting to use it. When I shop clearance aisle and sale items only. I use the Kohl's credit card because I get an extra 15, 20, 30% off of what I buy. And yes, I usually hold out for the 30% off. That's me. And I get the Kohl's bucks. And then I pay it off in full as soon as I get the statement in. I got a 5-way win. That is making your money work for you instead of you having to work so hard for it. I also want to mention in this area that I'll bet interest rates are not high at most banks. Some banks are giving you better interest rates than others. So, for example, DCU gives you 5% on your first $1,000. Jeanne d'Arc Credit Union gives you 7% on your first 500. Hanscom, unfortunately, their See You Thrive right now is only giving you 2%, but where most bigger banks are giving you 0.03 or 0.15, 2% is still a good interest rate. So looking for those better interest rates, usually you're going to find them with the credit unions or local banks faster. Once I have my bottom line after I've done my budget, and I'm learning to use all of those wonderful things that are out there as resources, vet ticks, what can I say? There's so many of them. Project New Hope for retreats, or it could be just like I was talking about Groupon and Living Social, whatever it may be, And I will send you a list of places that you can get discounts to as well. Then I can start looking at what's left over and what I want to do with what's left over. And it might be this money is being saved up for that house that we were talking about, Brenda. Because you are, even if you get a VA home loan, gonna need closing costs. Well, that's where first-time homebuyer classes come in. Because if you go through a chapter approved first-time home buying class, guess what? There are cities and towns out there that have down payment assistance. The Mass Welcome Home Loan gives you $1,500, I believe, towards your down payment. There are also realtors out there that give you a kickback because you're a veteran. Learning soup to nuts about the entire buying process saves you time and saves you money, because now you know the types of mortgages you might be looking at, and you can plan the area that you want to live in. And like I said, I'm just, because Brenda spoke up earlier, what those long-term goals are. This is some of the ways that we look outside the box to figure it out. You know, finding an inexpensive area that we like to purchase in, knowing that a house that might not be perfect for us, doesn't have that jacuzzi in the bathroom, after we buy it, we can upgrade it and also increase the value of it. I bought up in New Hampshire, and I've already done some improvements. I budget a portion of my money each year towards those improvements so that the value and my equity goes up, because one of the biggest long-term type investments that you can make is your property. So thinking about things like that too. Okay. So when we have the budget done, then we can start looking for our next tool. And that next tool would be the credit report. And when we look at our credit reports, I always tell people, I want you to please do not use Credit Karma or any of those wacko sites. Okay. I want you to go to annual credit, and I am typing this, report.com. Do not use any other site but that unless you're going directly to a credit reporting agency. Reason for this is all those miscellaneous sites are not accurate. They use a FICO 1. They're only tools to learn about credit. And also when you sign up for them, especially if you sign up on your phone, in the contract, you give them permission to access everything on your phone and permission to sell whatever information they want about you. And I do OPSEC. I teach identity theft. That is not good. Okay. Please protect yourself. Annualcreditreport.com is the one-stop shop put together through the federal government for real, for free. And on that site, not only can you get a copy of your credit report from each reporting agency, normally once a year for free, but right now because of COVID, you can actually, and don't mind me, I'm trying to pull it up. During COVID, they're allowing you to get a copy of your credit report from each reporting agency on a weekly basis for free. So you could actually get TransUnion this week, Experian and Equifax, and go back in and get them all again next week if you so choose, up through April. Okay. And this is because right now, unfortunately, there is a lot of issues with people, with hacks, with identity theft, with all kinds of stuff. So they're allowing people to access a little more often. While you're on this site, once you pull your credit report, I always say print it out. Okay? Because you can only access it for the time that you're in it. If there is something incorrect on your credit report, you can dispute it right there and then through this website. And like I said, this is the one-stop shop put together through the FACT Act for real, for free. You will not get your score unless you pay for it. I don't want you to wind up paying for it. Just get the free credit report. Okay? But like I said, if there is a discrepancy, you can dispute it right there, right then. They will go back to all 3 credit reporting agencies for you and go back to the creditor for you. The creditor will have 30 days to tell you why you owe the money or to remove it from your credit report. When you do a dispute, you're entitled to get a second copy of that credit report. I usually tell people wait 60 days because paperwork always takes time to catch up. All right. But you can do most of your activity right there. If you are looking at your credit report, there are certain things that go into it. And the reason I say don't worry about the score so much, if you understand the meat and potatoes, then you are going to understand where you stand and what you need to correct or build on to move above the score that you're at. And Brenda, I did see your question. And like I said, the score does cost money. It's like $5 or $7, depending on the reporting agency. And that's why I always tell people, work on what's inside the credit report, leaving the score off to the side, because by what you do with it and how you take care of the inside, your score will naturally climb. So, like I said, this is an hour class, and I'm going over 3 hours worth of material or more. So I am just going to jump right to what goes into building a score instead of going through the different types of credit, but I will backtrack a little bit. Okay. So your credit score is made up of certain things. And each credit reporting agency are for-profit businesses. They're not government agencies. And Jessica, I am going to talk to you about what your question is in the chat right now, because you said your bank provides you monthly with a FICO score. Is it accurate? It depends. It's their score for you. So with the 3 reporting agencies, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, their scores vary because they're for-profit businesses. They're trying to sell things. They're selling to your creditors information about you. Okay. So think of us all owning bakeries in the same town. We all make chocolate chip cookies. Our recipes are not going to be the same because I want to sell more than you. I'm using the dark chocolate because I think everybody loves dark chocolate like me. Brenda's using the macadamia nuts. I know her. She likes those. But that's how they react. So your score is going to float about 20 points either direction, depending on which credit reporting agency you're using. And every bank that you go to, whether it's for that mortgage, that car loan, or anything else, is going to have their idea of what is a good score or what they are looking for. And that's why it's called a FICO score, Fair Isaac Credit Scoring Model. There are over 1,000 different matrix that go into that scoring model. And depending on what matrix matter the most is how it's going to flex. And whether you use a FICO or a Vantage score, it's basically the same premise. So when we look at credit scores, we look at certain things. It's a picture in time. Good things will last on your credit report for 10 or more years. Bad things will fall off in 7 from the last transaction, with the exception of certain things. Arrears child support. For veterans, we have people in the child support division of the DOR that help you with issues. Arrears taxes. The IRS has buku ways to resolving tax issues. Mass actually now has tax advocates, and Mass actually now does payment agreements. Not as flexible as the IRS, but at least we now have those things. If you have a court judgment that needs to be paid, if somebody takes you to court over a debt, show up. If you don't show up, they win by default. If you show up, you can have a payment agreement or a lot of other things good can happen. Okay. Arrears student loans, you guys, some of you are educators. You know about student loans. There are tons of different payment agreements with student loans as well, including the 10% repayment program. Including if you're a 100% disabled veteran, you actually, with a doctor's note, could get your student loans dissolved. But if you do that, you will never get another federal student loan unless you pay back the old one. But there are other different ways of going about things too. Okay. And if you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, that will take 10 years to come off the credit report, but it has the most effect in the first 2 years. As the history goes older and older, it's less effective. So what most banks look like, the first year. After the first year, it drops by 40% of what anybody's looking at. Then another 20% each year they're out till the information has fallen off the credit report. The most important thing is on-time payments, whether it's a minimum payment or more. The second is how much available credit that you have. That's your revolving credit versus what you're using. So if I only had a bank loan on my credit report and I pay it on time and I pay it off in full, yay me. If I have nothing else on that credit report, the very next month, there's nothing to report. So my score's going down and the history's going away. So actually my score starts to dip. Having revolving credit, whether it is a credit card, charge card, line of credit to start a business, home equity loan, overdraft protection on your checking account. This not only gives us long-term history because it doesn't end unless one of 3 things happen. You close it, which we no longer tell you to do. They close it because you haven't used it in a year or 2. You have to use it every once in a while, or they'll close it for lack of usage. Or you messed up and they send you to collections, which hopefully that doesn't happen either. But this part of your credit is how much is available versus what you're using. The only thing that gives you that cushion or a limit to borrow up to is your revolving credit. And the less I'm using, the higher my score is going to go. Rule of thumb is 30% usage or less. The people with the highest scores pay everything off in full when they get their statements in. How do I feel about debt consolidation companies? Well, I work for a debt management company. There are different things out there. So I will give you the quick answer on that. Then I'll get back into the scoring model. Okay. If you are going with a company that says, oh, we're going to remove everything from your credit report, give us money up front, and we're going to see what sticks, stay away from them. They're committing fraud. Literally. only things that are inaccurate can be disputed by law. They're an Accurate Credit Reporting Act for a reason. I can help you write those letters for free if you don't want to do it yourself on annual, like we just talked about. Those companies that say, give us your money and we will make sure that you're paying 50% of the total debt, those are debt settlement companies. They sit on your money, gather it, collect the interest, charge you fees, and wait till the creditor is banging down your door to take you to court. And then they write the settlement letter. This is something I could help you write for free, and you could do on your own, but no bank or collection agency at that point will settle a debt unless it's extremely far past due. Usually it's 30 cents on the dollar or 50 cents on the dollar. You want to make sure you get letter in writing ahead of time to say that they're actually going to settle it and not settle for a payment, because collection agencies tend to mince words. And when you send in that lump sum payment, if you can afford to, usually they want a lump sum. Sometimes they'll take two. Then you'll have a settled notation on your credit report that lasts 7 years, affecting you most in the first 2. Some people will talk people into not putting that notation on, but guess what? I can't say that they won't, because it's actually fraud if they don't. They're an Accurate Credit Reporting Act for a reason. But I could help you write that letter for free. You don't need to pay somebody for it. When it comes to nonprofit financial education agencies like the one I work for, we do debt management programs. And basically where that comes into play is the cards that go into it must be closed. The creditors bring down the interest rates to next to nothing to get you out of debt within a 3 to 5 year period of time. To enter into a debt management program, though, your budget has to be in line with a debt management program need. You have to have high interest on your credit cards. And I usually tell people that enter into a debt management program to keep 1 or 2 accounts out and work on those on your own as emergency cards. All right. With a true nonprofit, you will have a minimum enrollment fee. We waive that for military. And our organization is the lowest price around. Our next closest competitor is a minimum of $75 a month from what I heard. Ours is $5 per account, capping off at $50 as a maximum. So it doesn't matter if you had 100 credit cards. That's the most my organization would ever charge as a monthly fee. If you had 1 credit card, it would be $5. That's debt management. When you're consolidating debt, you are going to a bank. You are asking the bank for a loan at a much lower interest rate than the debt. Well, if you don't have a good credit score, you're going to get a low interest rate? Nope. So it's very difficult to find a consolidation loan. And you must be very, very careful that you don't charge up your credit cards while you're paying down that loan, because you could be in double jeopardy. I also see people transfer money from one credit card to another one at 0% interest for 6 months and wind up in double jeopardy when the interest rate goes up because they didn't pay their debt in full. So that's the difference between all the different types of organizations out there. CFPB, the state attorney general's office, all say if you do need assistance, go to a nonprofit debt management program. I'm not saying you have to use my organization. I just know that we're the lowest cost in the nation, no matter what. That's beside the point. I always say, look at the budget first. Either go Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey's way of paying down debt. You know, Susie Orman, the highest interest rate first. Dave Ramsey, get rid of the little ones first. Or my way is getting that usage down, paying a little bit more to each one that's above the usage. If that doesn't work and you're barely making ends meet, it's looking at that budget and calling your creditors. That's your next step. Especially during COVID, a lot of people will work with you. Some banks will take a payment or two, say it's a car, rather than repoing it, put it on the back end of the loan. Okay, that might be just enough to get you over hot water. If that doesn't work, that's when you call an organization like mine. If debt management doesn't work for you, then you and I look at maybe some settlement letters. If that doesn't work, then we look at bankruptcy. Guess what? My organization is approved by the bankruptcy courts in all 50 states to do your bankruptcy certification, and Veterans Legal Services would help you with the legal portion of it. So you do have access to that stuff. But going back to the credit report, let's see how this fits. All right. History is the next part of that score. The longer you have good standing credit, the better off you are, right? Makes sense. Okay. History is the picture in time. Life happens to all of us. The new scoring model is the FICO 10 and 10T, and it fits right in with the way that I've always taught. So the person that's just shifting debt from one place to another and not doing anything about it is going to score approximately up to 20 points lower than a person that has a life event, but the credit reporting agencies see them trying to pay it down. History also matters. Within 2 years of a bankruptcy or a settlement, it will be very difficult for you to get a mortgage. Going back to Brenda's dream of home ownership. So we would work through the budget rather than trying to do the quick step, huh? Because either in a bankruptcy or a settlement, you are breaking a contract. Credit reporting agencies are behind a wall. They know nothing about your life. They only know what's reported to them. And that's how they are going to see it. You break contracts. Guess what? Your score goes down. You have to rebuild. Fastest, easiest way is with a secured credit card. And I can get into that with anybody that would like to talk to me about it after the class. I only have like 10 minutes to go. So I want to make sure I get through the rest of this. Types of credit does matter when you're looking to buy a house. Yeah, kind of, sort of, but it's only 10% of your score. So you need 1 or 2 types of credit on your credit report in good standings to get a car loan without a cosigner. For a veteran, 2 to 3. And the reason why I say 2 to 3 to get a mortgage is because there are certain mortgage products out there that will take good rent checks in lieu of having a third type of credit. And those are the VA home loan, the Mass Welcome Home Loan, Rural Housing Development Loans, and the one. All 4 of those will take, instead of that third type of credit, a good rent check where they see the checks going in and out of your bank account. When I purchased with just credit cards. You don't have to have student loans or a car payment or anything else. All I had was credit cards on my credit report. I drive a company car. I bought a house. Okay. The last part of your score is hard inquiries. Hard inquiries, even though it's only 10% of your score, can add up fast. Soft inquiries are informational pulls. Okay, they do not affect your score. That's you getting a copy of your credit report from annual or directly from a credit reporting agency. It's when your bank every 6 months looks at your credit report to determine if they're going to change the amount of available credit or your interest rates with you. And yes, by law, they're allowed to. It's when you get all that junk mail. Well, they already sold a list to all those creditors and they're seeing who they want to do business with. That's informational. Your landlord, job, informational. But when you get that junk mail in the house and you sign on the dotted line because you want that card, now they're going to go back and pull another credit report. And this time it's going to be a hard inquiry because you're looking for new money. Remember, credit reporting agency behind a wall. I go Christmas shopping. Every store offers me a discount if I open up a credit card today. Am I going to do it? No, because credit reporting agencies just see Sue's looking for new money. Sue's looking for new money. Sue's looking for new money. And after a while, they get nervous. Okay. What does she need all this new money for? How's she's going to pay it back? Is she going to be able to make the minimum payments? Is she going to remember when it's due? All right. Rule of thumb, 5 or less hard inquiries in a 2-year period of time. That's how long the inquiry itself lasts on the credit report. Now, for each credit card look, it's going to be about 5 points, whether you're accepted or denied. If you're shopping around for a car, 2 weeks is allowed for you to shop around. So you go to a dealership, they send it out to 13 different banks. Hold your horses, don't get nervous. You're going to see all those pulls on the credit report, but it's only about 10 points. The cost of the car, adding that debt onto your credit report, guess what? That's going to be even more points. But as you start making your payments, you're going to start seeing your score go back up. And this is why I said don't hone in on the score. Know what goes into building that score, because your score changes with purchases and with payments. It's natural. As soon as somebody reports to the credit reporting agencies, your score changes for the better or worse, depending on when they're reporting. And we can't be guaranteed. That's why the rule of thumb is to keep it under that 30% usage with the revolving stuff and pay on time with everything else. You're going to always be higher up. Okay. When you're looking for a mortgage, they allow you 45 days to shop around. It's considered one pull, any pulls that are done within that 45 days. It's approximately 15 points for the pull. It's a tri-pull, biggest ticket item you're ever gonna buy. And guess what? When you get that house, your score is gonna go down. But as you make the payments, it's gonna go right back up. So we gotta think about cause and effect for everything that we do. You know, whether it's the conditions that surround us. Every time we get a new administration in office, guess what? Conditions change because everybody has their own policies. That's why I'm saying we got to hone in that on that budget. We know what's coming down the pike, so prepare for it. Okay. When we are thinking about the credit report, that's our character now. That's what people see because bankers are no longer allowed to make that decision. I know Bob for my whole life. He's my banker. I need to borrow some money for a new transmission. Bob would approve it. Guess what? He's not allowed to approve it anymore. It has to go up into a machine in the underwriters area. And that machine is calculated to that particular bank's idea of what my credit worthiness is. And that machine will make the decision. And that's why the bank's scores are going to be just like the credit reporting agency scores. They're going to float a little bit. Okay. We have to think about cause and effect for everything. Cash is still king. More money I put down on something, the less I'm going to owe over time. Also, it can bring down my interest rates. Collateral. That is the loan against the car, the mortgage against the house, the secured credit card, having a CD against the card itself while we're building credit. Okay. And collateral is important sometimes because if you do have that collateral, it gives you a little bit more power to borrow. All right. We've got to think about all those different types of things when we're thinking about our credit report. Having a good solid credit report is going to get us the best interest rate. Having that budget solid, we want to build a nest egg of 3 to 6 months. Nowadays, we say 6 months of savings before we start doing our investing. And nowadays, we have to think about investing for retirement too. And I can go into that at a different time because I'm almost out of time as well. But we can always talk about basic investing. But nowadays, I do have to tell you, I've been listening to the economic group that's out in Western Mass, and they are saying plan for a 10% correction in the stock market coming up. So long term, it's going to come back. In the short term, though, we may see a nice dip like we saw yesterday. I think yesterday it went down 500 or 600 points. It came back about 400 points today. We see this happen with changes in the administration, with changes in policies, and with COVID and other things going on. You actually have to think of cause and effect with everything that you do. How is it going to affect your wallet, your life, the plans that you want to make, and your future if you want a happy future? So I hope tonight everybody journals on where they came from last year and where they want to be at the end of this year. And I'm hoping that's a happy place. And if you need more information from me, you can always contact me directly. I know that eventually Bob and I will be doing another one of these. And my talks change a little bit every time I talk because I try and keep up to date. So I thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Sue. That was great. So if anyone wants documents, they can either contact Sue directly. She left her information in the chat, or you can email me and I'd be happy to send that information. Our mayor, M-A-Y-E-R, at mwcc.mass.edu. Thank you all very much for coming. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.